And there's also a provocative cover story in Newsweek that asks the question, what's the matter with men? It would be easy to be flip and say, where should I begin? But in the interest of informing this conversation, here's the harsh reality behind the question for, frankly, recession-weary America. Of the 12 jobs that are expected to see the most growth over the next decade, only 2 are jobs traditionally held by men, construction worker and accountant. But then take a look at this chart. Teachers, registered nurses, home health aides, customer service reps, all those jobs are going to grow substantially between now and 2018, but are men willing to take those jobs? Here to help us get inside the cover story of Newsweek magazine is clinical psychologist Melissa Vranich, who is a Huffington Post contributor and author of He's Got Potential, a field guide to shy guys, bad boys, intellectuals, cheaters, and everything in between. Thanks very much for joining us.
Hi, thank you.
Okay, so I guess here's the problem. If you want to be a manly man, I guess a Don Draper, a Clint Eastwood, you know, unless it's a movie, you don't see these guys teaching kindergarten or changing bedpans. That's the perception, right? I mean, but the real problem is if men want jobs, they may have to move into some non-traditional areas. Is that going to work?
That is going to work, and they do have to open up that definition of what they think is appropriate for a man to be able to be employed. If you look at the statistics, we're going to have 6.9 million new jobs by 2018, and about 2.5 million are going to be unfilled. And one of the reasons is because men are not going to change their definition of what's manly and not take those jobs, and they should reconsider what it means to them.
Well, let me read a quote from Newsweek, because I think that this is sort of summarizes a lot of what this article is about. What's required then is not a reconnection with the past, but a liberation from it. Its definition should be broadened to include both Mr. T and Mr. Mom. It's time, in other words, for a new macho, a reimagining of what men should be expected to do in the two realms, home and work, that have always determined their worth. Are we, do you think, as women, partly to blame for this? Because, you know, if you're beleaguered and you have a job and you have kids and you go home and you realize you're doing twice as much housework as he is, you want him doing the housework, but then we as women, many of us also want the manly man.
Well, we want the manly man, but we want one that's going to help us at home, because the statistics do show that we still are doing more housework than they are. We see the kids 400% more than men do. So we do want them to take on more things that have to do at home, but so they can be good fathers. Not necessarily to make our jobs easier, but because we want that fatherhood part of the macho men to be something that's in their dailiness, in their vocabulary.
Well, let me ask you finally, do you think that in some ways the state could help, or legislation could help? In Sweden, where they essentially made it mandatory for men to take time off, for fathers to take time off or lose that time,
yes,
men took it.
Absolutely. And 92% of Democrats, 62% of Republicans actually support paid paternity leave. So guys, take that paternity leave, ask for it, and stay home with your kids.
Melissa, thanks so much for being with us. Cocaine confessions. Paris Hilton and Lindsay Lohan are both in real trouble right now because of illegal drugs.